Hello, party people, and welcome to another episode of the Mug Life Podcast. I'm Brittany, and today's going to be a good one. So sit down, get your coffee, sit passenger seat with me, and let's chat. Because something I'm seeing online right now that's actually driving me freaking crazy is this post, and you'll probably recognize it when I say it, but it says something like, "Moms, you are not a trash can, so stop eating your kids' table scraps," or like, "Mom, you're not a trash can, so stop scrounging through the fridge like you're a raccoon." Okay, well, let's just start off by saying the very obvious thing here. Well, no shit, we're not a trash can, okay? And the problem that I have with these posts, like, although I know that the intention is there, like, hopefully they have good intentions, but they're calling you out and they're saying like, hey, try not to eat a bunch of table scraps that probably don't even taste very good that need to go in the trash can, right? Like, it's encouraging moms to stop mindless snacking, specifically on their toddlers' leftover grilled cheese crusts. But the problem that I have with that type of post is it just kind of puts this like lens of shame around this really normal struggle that so many moms have. In fact, that I struggled with for so long, and that I still, to this day, catch myself reaching for leftovers or just like popping a goldfish in my mouth or finishing up my son's chicken nugget. Like, that is so normal. So if you're listening to this thinking like, God, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I know I'm not a trash can, but I can't stop. It's like, it just ends up in my mouth. And I'm like, how the fuck did it just get in my mouth? Like, how did that even happen? It was soggy. Like, why did I do that? That was gross. Right. And so I wanted to record this podcast to support the mothers out there who feel like they really struggle with mindless snacking, not just like on their toddler's leftovers, but just like in general. Like, if you are somebody that kind of finds yourself with food in your mouth and you're like, wait, how did that even happen? I see you. It's so normal. We are completely overwhelmed and so busy as moms that we kind of run on autopilot. And I am not here to shame you today. And in fact, I know you're not a trash can, and I know you're not a trash can. So let's talk about how to stop mindless snacking so that you can reach your fat loss goals, and let's take the shame out of it, okay? So I want to start by telling you that although it really may feel like it, this is not an issue of willpower, okay? And I'll explain that further as we move along through the podcast. But this is also not the food's fault, okay? More specifically, if something like sweets or chocolate or candy, things like that, if you struggle because you overeat those things, that's so normal. I totally get it. I promise you, you should not feel shame around that, because it's something that we can really work on changing so that our view of those foods isn't like, oh, well, this is a bad food and I just can't have it in the house. Because honestly, the real issue at hand that most moms have when they come to me is they have this idea of like good and bad foods. And although we've kind of been trained all of our lives to recognize foods as having good or bad labels, depending on like, this food is going to make me fat, this food's going to help me get skinny, this food has too many calories, this food has low calorie, right? Like, we've just been programmed, especially if you're a millennial mom like me, to search out low calorie options whenever we're on a diet. Well, I'm here to tell you that if you can be intentional and be aware and own your decisions around your eating, specifically around snacking and mindless snacking, then you don't have to start really thinking about foods as good or bad, but we can actually start thinking about food as helpful or unhelpful to our goals. Making decisions in the moment, which we'll talk about here in a second. I have a very specific tool that I give my clients that help them make decisions in the moment around food. When we get to a point where we are self-aware enough to first recognize that we are eating food mindlessly, then when we are able to recognize that we are eating the food mindlessly, we can then check in with ourselves and we can say, okay, like, why am I eating this food right now? We can ask ourselves, the first question I always encourage my clients to ask is like, am I actually physically hungry right now? And for some people, hunger, it's a disconnected feeling. And a part of the issue here can also be that we've completely disconnected from our hunger and fullness cues, right? And so that is a whole other podcast talking about hunger, what hunger feels like in the body, the different types of hunger. But for this podcast, I'm going to say that you can tell when you're hungry, physically hungry. Your body's maybe feeling kind of hollow, your belly's grumbling, you're thinking about food a lot, you're kind of watering at the mouth. Everybody feels hunger differently in the body. But for the sake of this podcast, I'm going to say that you know when you're hungry, or you at least know when food sounds good, right? And so with that in mind, so many of us are not only disconnected from our hunger and fullness, but we're also disconnected from our needs, from our emotions, from our feelings. And as cheesy as it may sound, if we don't start checking in with ourselves and checking in with how we're feeling and identifying, literally naming what we are feeling, it's going to be really hard to stop the mindless snacking, because what the mindless snacking usually is a coping mechanism to deal with unwanted emotions, unhelpful emotions or feelings in the body, right? Typically stress, boredom, sadness, loneliness, depression, things like that. All things that, or even anger, right? Or just feeling overwhelmed, all things that as moms, I'm sure we go through like the rainbow of emotions, depending on what stage of life our kids are into. Like maybe you're really, really tired, right? There's so much that goes into how we use food, because food, whether we know it or not, whether we realize it or not, food is not only just quote unquote fuel, right? Energy, calories, whatever you want to call it. It's also an experience. And food, we will never not be able to reach for food for an experience. Like that's just gonna happen in our lives. And so the sooner that we can recognize that food can also be an experience, and it doesn't have to be about like, will this make me gain weight, or will this help me lose weight, or will this make me fat? And it's just about like the taste and savoring it and being with family or in the moment. Typically foods we think about, like, you know, pie at Thanksgiving or a birthday cake on your birthday, right? Those things, let's be real. Let's be honest. You and me right here, right now, we're not eating birthday cake because we're like, oh, like this birthday cake really in the moment sounds really delicious and it's going to give me energy for my workout. No, we're going to eat the fucking birthday cake because it's really fucking tasty on your birthday and it's part of the experience. You blow out the candles and you eat the cake, right? But until we can recognize that food isn't just fuel, this is also going to be an added layer of discomfort, right? If you want to stop overeating or snacking mindlessly, because snacking mindlessly does add on extra energy. By the way, calories, the C word, which not that C word we don't say right here. We don't say the C word to each other, girl. But calories, same thing as energy, right? All food has energy, has calories. And no matter what it is, when we take in calories, we use those calories and we have an energy budget. Okay. I like to think of it as a budget. It's a little bit more helpful to like picture it, right? Just like you have a spending budget, you have a energy budget, and we feed ourselves energy. Some foods have more energy than others. Some are more nutrient dense than others. So like some are higher quality, right? Like if you think of like, if you go out and buy like a shitty t-shirt on Temu or whatever the hell, I don't even know. Like, what is that fake? Anyways. So like if you go out and you buy like a shitty t-shirt on Amazon and it's like shitty quality, but then like you go to like, what is like the Aeropostale or whatever, and you get this like really soft quality t-shirt, like all energy, right, is going to be of helpful quality or unhelpful quality, right? So I don't like to think of it as good or bad. It's just like, what's going to be lasting for me? Do I want to invest in good quality energy, or do I want something that's going to be kind of like take it in, use it up real quick, and then not get a lot of bang for my buck? And sometimes we want the not as much bang for my buck food, right? Like I'm trying to think of like a brownie or cake. Yeah, it's going to be more energy food, but it's not going to keep me as full long. It's not going to keep me satisfied as long. And it's not going to give me the protein to build muscle, right? So in my eyes, the way I like to think about it is that food is like really good and should totally be a part of my budget. But I like to budget out my energy so that I'm reaching my goals intentionally, but also still living my fucking life and doing and getting those other options as well. And this roadblock that we have with good and bad food can really become an issue if we don't start paying attention. But in the same light, for example, an avocado, which everybody's like, oh, like they would consider that like that's a good food, right? An avocado is a great food. It's delicious. It's yummy. It's nutrient dense. It's high in fats. It's good for your body, your hormones, right? But it is much higher energy. And it's hard for us to wrap our head around that because for the longest time we have it shoved down our throats that if it's a sweet, or if it's a cake or a pop or a candy, or if it's McDonald's cheeseburger, we just get told that's bad, right? Like that is the bad food. Don't eat that food, right? And then that's when we restrict. That's when we pull back. We go through lengths of time where we're like, well, I just won't eat that. You know what? I won't even buy it. I'm not even going to bring that into the house. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut out sweets for a month. I'm going to lose a bunch of weight if I do that. Like, I can't control myself around sweets, so I just won't buy it. I won't bring it in the house. I'll be fine. It'll be totally fine. But then a week goes by and you're like, holy shit. If I don't get a chocolate bar in my mouth, I might punch a small woodland creature. You crave it, right? You start to feel like you think about it all the time. And it's like when we put food on a pedestal, of course you're going to crave it. What you can't have, you totally want, all right? That's been ingrained in us since we were a little baby toddler. Don't push the red button. Don't do it. Don't push the red button. What do we want to do? We want to push the red button. We want to know, right? We're curious by nature, okay? And so if you are struggling with feeling like you are obsessing about food, it's probably because you don't allow yourself or give yourself unconditional permission to eat all foods, right? And so just shifting that mindset around food instead of saying, and trust me, like I catch myself sometimes, it's like habit. Like we've been taught since we were little. Diet culture has like trapped us and like brainwashed us, right? But if we can really make a conscious effort to catch ourselves and correct ourselves, as silly as it sounds, and be like, okay, like, is this a helpful food for me to reach my goals? Is this an unhelpful food? How is this going to get me closer to my goals? This is not necessarily a bad food or a good food. It's just like when I think about the length of my day, what do I want to put into my body? And how will what I put into my body help me reach my goals? And so if you are somebody who, like, let's just use chocolate as an example, right? Let's say you buy a box of chocolate chip cookies and they're at your house and you're somebody who's like, I literally can't not just eat the entire box. Like I will sit down and just binge the entire thing. I cannot control myself around that food. I just don't buy it. Okay. If that's you, it's very likely that you have trained your body into this like restriction mindset, right? It's like, well, I can't have it. I can't have it. I can't have it. And then your body rebels and it's like, oh yes, you will have it. And you just eat it all at once because you're like, I'm never going to get this again. I won't buy it. Okay, I'll just eat it all now and then I'll never buy it again. I'll never buy it again. It's the lie you tell yourself because you're going to buy it again because it's fucking delicious and we should all have cookies in our lives. But I'm getting a little bit sidetracked here because it all kind of plays into each other, but let's kind of pull us back into a scenario where you have the cookies, okay? Let's say you have cookies and they're in your cabinet. I always encourage clients to create a barrier. So like keeping something that you feel quote unquote out of control around, just putting it in a cabinet. So it's not sitting out on your kitchen island or on your kitchen table, right? Putting it in a Ziploc baggie and pre-portioning out your popcorn or your chips or whatever it is. So you have to unzip the bag to reach in and get a portion out. Any way that you can create boundaries that are intentional, like there's a difference between restriction and intention, and making the intentional choice to create that like wall with a cabinet where you have to literally physically open up a cabinet door to reach in and pull out that snack. That gives you a second, okay? That gives you a split second to pause and pick, which by the way is a tool that I teach my clients. It's called the pause and pick method. So what's important to understand about the pause and pick method is that what it does is it creates an awareness piece that so many of you are missing, right? Because then we can choose to respond instead of react to our emotions, okay? There's a big difference there. And that's kind of where we lean into intentionality. And that is why I teach my clients intentional eating. This is not intuitive eating. There's no such thing as intuitive eating for fat loss. And so if there's a coach that's trying to sell you that, that doesn't fucking exist because intuitive eating is an anti-diet framework, but that's for another podcast. So to be an intentional eater and to work towards your goals without tracking macros, because I would rather fucking fight a lion with a pool noodle than have to track a single bite of food. I don't got time for that shit. So what the pause and pick method does is it creates awareness, okay? So it allows you to be making an intentional decision around the food you are about to put into your body. It cuts off this autopilot zone that you're in. And it takes practice, okay? I'm not saying you're going to learn this method from me on this one podcast and you're going to go out and practice it and you're going to be perfect at it. Hell no. That's why you hire a coach. That's why you have somebody to like talk through scenarios. And that's also why I always tell my clients, This is not about judging yourself in the moment. It's getting curious and reflecting on your experiences. Even if it's like a quote unquote failed moment where you end up eating something, you're like, that didn't align with my goals, right? That right there is great. That is a moment where you can reflect back and you can be like, okay, like, why did that happen? What was the trigger? What happened right before I put that pretzel in my mouth? And so the pause and pick method is like a superpower for moms. It's a tool that you can use because you can literally pull it out at any moment. It basically just says, pause. Okay, so let's just go into a scenario here. But let me set the stage, okay? The house is a mess. There's laundry piled up on the couch you haven't folded yet. There's dishes in the sink. Your toddler's literally running around like a wild animal and like flipping off the top of the couch. You feel crazy. It's like 4 p.m. So it's like the witching hour, right? Like you feel like, okay, it's not quite dinner time yet. I still have to cook dinner. I got some of it on the stove. Some of it's ready. I think I forgot to put that load of laundry in the dryer. Did I put that load of laundry in the dryer? And your husband's not home and you're just like, you're feeling very overwhelmed and overstimulated. It's been a long freaking day. Okay. And so you catch yourself with your hand on the cabinet door and you're swinging it open. This is where you pause. Okay. This is the hard part because it takes practice, because first we have to acknowledge what we're doing, which takes practice, right? But once you get in the habit of pausing and catching yourself, that's where the magic happens, okay? So you grab the cabinet, you open it up, you reach up and get that bag of chocolate chips that's up in your baking, stash. And you catch yourself, right? Because you created that barrier, and you pause and then you pick, okay? And this is where the magic's at. All right, I gotta set my coffee down for this one because I need both my hands. Okay, so you pause and you pick. All right. So I can ultimately, no matter how big this, I should backtrack here a little bit. Ultimately, no matter how big the decision is or how small the decision is, every single choice we make every single day will either move us towards our goal or away from our goal. And sometimes we're going to move away from our goal. And that's okay if it's an intentional decision, right? We can choose to eat something or do something that doesn't quite align with our goals if it aligns with other values that we have. And we don't have to make up for it later. It's not a fail, it's a choice. And I coach my clients through it. You have to be the CEO of your body, bitch. Like, you got to be the CEO. Own your decisions. Make your choices. Call the shots. I picture a girl in like a pantsuit and she's like, yes, I will do that. I'm confident in that decision. We have to build that trust in ourselves and in our bodies, and that takes time, right? So back to the cabinet. You can either choose to move towards your goals or away from your goals. And this is where you pause. And this is not like a pause and journal and like reflect and meditate and deep breathe. No, you don't have fucking time for that shit. Your toddler's over there about to jump off the couch, maybe break his leg. So you got to do this quick, right? So you pause, you pick. Okay, does getting a handful of these chocolate chips really fix what I need right now? Am I hungry? Am I physically hungry right now? Maybe you are. Okay, eating those chocolate chips aligns with your goals and it aligns with what you have with your budget. Eat the fucking chocolate chips. There's nothing wrong with that. But let's say it doesn't. Let's say eating those chocolate chips does not align with your current goals and you have been very intentional about your eating all day long and you really want to enjoy those chocolate chips later on top of your ice cream that you're going to have that you give yourself unconditional permission to eat. Okay, so let's say you pause and you pick. You say, you know what? I know that I am reaching for this chocolate because I am overwhelmed. I recognize that. Name the emotion. Okay. It's so important. And I want you to say it out loud. I know that sounds so weird and your toddler would be like, what, mommy, why are you talking to yourself? But listen to me, say it out loud. I want you to say it out loud. I really do encourage you to do that because what that does is it like signals your brain to be present in the moment. So I'm going to act this out for you a little bit. So I open the cabinet. I'm reaching for the chocolate chips. I'm going to pause. Am I hungry right now? I mean, a little bit, but I'm cooking dinner. I'm going to be eating soon. Does this align with my goals? Does this really, truly meet what I'm needing right now? What need is not being met in this moment? Why am I reaching for that comfort, right? Because chocolate chips for me is comfort. I love chocolate. It's a little bit of a brain buzz, right? It's like that's just like a little moment of pleasure, right? And so in that moment, I said, what is my unmet need? Something made me reach for this chocolate. And I check in with my surrounding and I check in with my body. Oh, I'm clenching my jaw. My tongue is at the roof of my mouth. My heart's just like beating a little bit. I'm feeling a little bit scattered. Like I'm overwhelmed. It's been a really long day. Oh my gosh, it's not about the chocolate. Close the cabinet door. You paused. You made a decision and you owned that decision. I don't want that chocolate right now. What I do need, maybe it's, and by the way, getting to the point where you can recognize your emotions choose something that aligns with your goals and then do something to help meet the needs of your feelings and your emotions, that's a lot. Okay. That takes a lot of practice. And please, please, please don't like beat yourself up if you go and try and do this and you're like, holy shit, this is way too hard. I can't do it. Please, please, please don't do that. In fact, send me a DM, tell me you tried it, and then I will help you on Instagram. You can send me a message and I would love to support you through this. In that moment, you recognize you had an unmet need and you identified it. You're like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm stressed. I'm tired. I feel crazy right now. What do I really need? Because the chocolate is only going to hit for a second, right? And then I'm going to want to come back for more. Maybe it's that I need to literally open the door, go outside. It's fall. It's beautiful outside. The air is crisp. And I just literally need to take a breath. I need to breathe in and breathe out. Because I've learned through practice that for me, taking 3 deep breaths in and out resets my nervous system and it makes me feel human again. And then I'm going to go back inside and I'm going to engage with my toddler in a positive way to kind of reset myself. And then I'm going to get back to what I was doing with dinner or with whatever things I was doing, right? And so that's just an example of how to use the pause and pick method. But the ultimate goal here is to understand that the food is not the problem. You are not the problem. And what you're going through is so freaking normal because we live in a world like that is moving faster than ever before. I'm gonna get my coffee back in my hand now. We are living in a world that is moving faster than ever before. And as moms, oh my gosh, you are literally doing so much more than any other generation before you. Sorry, moms, if you're like older generation. Seriously, this generation of moms is having to do so much and the expectations are still so fucking high. And we're working full time and we're taking care of our kids. We're doing things. We're spending so much time just like giving. And then we have this social media world that we're like absorbing too. And we're comparing ourselves. And it's just like, holy tamale, no wonder you want some fucking chocolate chips. But what if you could have the tool to stop and pause and make a choice and be intentional about your eating so that you didn't wake up the next morning and have a chocolate chip hangover and be pissed at yourself. And here's the thing. The more you use this tool, the more you realize, like, even if I do eat the chocolate chips and wake up the next morning and be like, dang it, that didn't really align with my goals and like what I value and the things that I'm trying to reach. Like, if that happens, if you get really good at this, you start to have some more self-compassion. You lean into curiosity instead of judgment and guilt and hate for yourself. And you recognize it as an opportunity to learn about yourself. And what so many coaches fail to teach their clients is that it's not as easy as just don't eat it or just stick to your macros or like, oh, if you track it or don't track it, then you don't have to worry about it, right? It's not that fucking easy because we're not robots, okay? We're not robots. We have emotions, we have feelings, we have cravings, we have good days, we have bad days, right? But it's important to recognize that this is not something you just get. Like, it's not like snap your fingers like, oh, I'm a healthy eater. Like, I can just get to my goals. No, it's a lot of work, but it's good work. And if you actually go through the process, especially if you have fat loss goals, and you take the time to build trust in your body again and create a foundation for fat loss first, you're not going to crumble 1 month in because you just can't white knuckle it anymore and you lose your grip. Okay. And that's what's different about Reclaim You, my one-on-one coaching program. And I'm really excited. My new offer that's coming out very, very soon. I'm thinking, and fingers crossed, hopefully it will be end of January that my new program is going to launch, but it's going to be super helpful if you're somebody that kind of struggles with this. Like, this is what I'm tackling with this program. But no more words on that because it's kind of like a secret. But what I can say is that it is totally possible for you to stop this like mindless snacking and quote unquote being a trash can, which I freaking hate. That is why this whole podcast came out today, because I can't handle shaming moms any more than we already do and making food like your problem. Like, you're just not approaching food the right way. Or like, maybe you shouldn't just, if you can't control yourself, like, don't have the sugar around. We know that eating our grilled cheese crusts off our toddler's tray is not the best thing in the world. It's not like the tastiest thing, but Shaming us and calling us trash cans, not my cup of tea, or actually a cup of coffee. So I just want you to know this is kind of, I'm going to wrap this up here. I'm going to bring it full circle here. If you can start today, this is one small takeaway. Okay. I know this was a lot of information. Please, please, please understand this is not something that you will just get overnight. It takes practice and it takes experimenting. It takes a lot of awareness. Okay. It also takes knowing who you are as a person and what your needs are, because I don't know what your needs are. You do. And sometimes we don't even know what our needs are and we have to just test things out, right? So recognize that this is going to be a process, but it's a good one and it's a valuable process. And if we create this foundation of really kind of turning inward, instead of leaning on these external validation pieces, like an app telling us, good job, you hit your macro count, or like an app saying you reached your step goal. What if instead, I really want to challenge you to turn inward, okay? Because I know all of our lives as moms, especially in this like millennial mom world, we've wanted to just like pop our heads off our bodies and not have to deal with it. We just want to be skinny. We just want to get in shape. We just want to lose the weight. I get it. But your urgency is killing your progress. Okay. And I know that sucks to hear. I know it sucks to hear, but I won't lie to you because I value transparency and I value honesty. And I've been where you are. And I know how frustrating it is to feel like you're doing all the right things and not reaching your goals. And a big piece of that is because we are ignoring the most important part, our bodies. We're choosing to eat high protein meals past fullness because, we got to reach that protein goal, right? We're getting a crazy amount of steps and going out at like 1 a.m. because we didn't get to 10K steps and we're only at 9.3. Right? And then we're losing sleep. Like, it has to make sense. Make it make sense for you and your life, okay? Because what's going to happen is if we are so focused on this outcome and we're not paying attention to the process and what feels doable for us, like what are we ready and able and capable to do, then we're going to burn the fuck out. And then you're going to keep going in this vicious loop of going all in and then burning out. I don't want that for you. So today, here's what you're going to do. Or I encourage you to do. I will never tell you what to do because I'm not that sassy. But I do encourage you to try this. And if not today, so you want to start on a new day, start fresh tomorrow. Start paying attention to when you reach for food. That's it. The first step is just being able to recognize, I just reached for food. This is not a planned mealtime. And all right, even like if you open the fridge, okay, check in with yourself. This is all I want you to do. The pause is the only part I want you to try. Okay. You can pick later on, you can choose like, okay, does this align with my goals or move me closer to the person that I want to become? Or does it move me away from the person I want to become? Does the person that I want to be, does this person make this choice to just mindlessly snack? But before we even get there, we have to catch ourselves. We have to be present, okay? This is where mindful eating comes into play, all right? We have to be present in the moment to the act and the experience of eating. That's what mindful eating is. Mindful eating is not just listening to your body. Like that doesn't cover it, okay? It really is so much deeper than that. And so let's say you open the fridge today. I want you to just see if you can recognize in that moment, stop and pay attention to your body. Ask yourself, am I hungry? This is not a planned mealtime. Why am I reaching for the fridge? What just happened 10 seconds ago? Maybe you got off the phone with your mom and she was telling you how to parent. It pissed you off. So you wanted to eat, a cheese stick out of the fridge. I don't know, right? Like maybe your toddler just threw a huge tantrum at Target and you just got home and the first thing you did was made a beeline for the kitchen. Start paying attention. Make little notes in your phone app, like your notes app in your phone, or just mentally log it. That's all I want you to do today. And I bet you just catching yourself and paying attention to when you reach for stuff that doesn't necessarily align with your hunger and your goals, it will start to have a really positive impact on the process towards, if you have fat loss goals, like if that's something you're working towards, that's kind of what I help my clients do is find a sustainable way to fat loss. So if that's your goals, great. If not, if it's just to maintain or if it's just to live a healthier life, great. But this is one way that we can start to be intentional. All right. I hope this was helpful. I am so excited to hear from you. I would love for you to share this podcast with a friend. Leave me a review, please, please, please. That's so helpful. Leave a comment and please connect with me on social media. I would be so happy to hear how the pause and pick tool worked for you. And if you found this helpful, sharing with a mom friend helps me help other moms, right? So I kind of depend on you guys to push it out there, and I'm going to keep making these podcasts and helping you out. And if you're interested in coaching, send me a DM, but there's also links in the show notes for all of that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.